Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order, and I would like to begin by making the following statement. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. My name is Carrie Linklater. I'm your chairperson today. I'm joined on the panel by Mr. Robert Grodznik. Our city assessor is Mr. Dutchan Ramswack, and our admin secretary is Ms. Huda Aziz. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony. Anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The board is appointed annually by City Council and is independent of it and the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all applications have been heard. The board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. And as information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. And if I could just ask if everybody has their cell phone turned off, please. And we will start with 1893 Alexander Avenue. So, number 7.
Okay.
Would you like to swear in or affirm?
I affirm
Please state your full name.
Dr. Ramswack.
And do you affirm the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Would you like to swear in or affirm?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Please state your full name.
Yeah, Dutchan also.
And do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. And do you have evidence you would like to pass out to the panel today?
Okay, take these one each page.
Okay, perfect.
It will be easy for you.
Okay.
I mean, take like that.
Okay.
And whenever you're ready, Mr. Ramswack. Mr. Ramswack, whenever you're ready.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Oh. Right, I got it here. I asked the applicant when he is making his presentation, you can put his phone up to him, the microphone.
Sure.
Right, thanks. Okay. I shall begin. In respect to the subject property, which is at 1893 Alexander Avenue with a roll number 070 9109600. This property is in Brooklands. It's a by-level built in 2010. It's a single family home with 1,206 square feet with, you would see there it's got yes to basement, that's binary. To tell you what it is down there, what we have on record, and you want to take this as your information, 180 square feet. That's all, just a small portion that we have there in our records. The garage, however, was built in 2010, and that is 440 square feet. So when we're looking to compare, we'll take that into consideration and make necessary adjustments when the comparables don't have a garage. Now, the assessed value here is $308,000, and we have 4 comparables here that suggest that the price is that we have for this property at $308,000 is more or less fair. However, I did make a recommendation to the appellant which she doesn't or did not accept, and I'll tell you what that figure is, Madam Chair, it's $298,000. And so the 4 comparables here, comparable number 1 then is 855 McDormand. All these comparables are in the same neighborhood characteristic area. They are all bi-levels. They're built, well, they're actually newer, but the comparables are around the same age, between 2016 and 17. And the sizes vary slightly, as you can see. And only one of those comparables, that's comparable number 3, that actually does have a finished basement area. That is actually 663 square feet from the records. So adjustments can be made with regarding that size of the finished basement and logo. Now the other characteristics there are, whether it be bathrooms and garages and central conditioning, you can see they are there. The lot sizes, they vary slightly, but they are expected to be this type of size in this area, between 2,500 and 2,500 or 700 square feet. Now, what do we have for comparables? Comparable number 1 then, we look at the time adjusted sale price. Comparable number 1 is $304,000. Comparable number 2 is $279,000. Comparable number 3 with the garage and the rec room is $313,000. And comparable number 4 in Alexander is $269,000. Now, when I look at comparable number 3 and see, well, it's a smaller home. It's got a garage. It's the only one that's got actually a double garage, and it's $313,000. I choose to make my adjustment to reduce the subject property to $298,000. When I look at comparable number 1 that has a single garage and no basement finish but newer and about the same size at 304, with those 2 comparables I thought justify a $298,000 assessed value. And that, Madam Chair, is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. So you are not accepting the recommendation?
No, not at all.
Okay. Do you have questions of the assessor?
Yeah. First of all, if you see this one, I write it down.
Sorry, this is
No.
just questions about what he has presented on his brief.
Yeah, because that house, the back side of that house is a
Okay.
really junk. That's what he was saying about the garage. Between how much is the difference between the garage and next buildings? Would you park the car inside the garage or no? That's what I mean.
Sorry, you have to direct your questions to the assessor.
Yeah.
Will you speak into the microphone, please? Will you put it closer to you? Go ahead, please.
Did you check that back lane and how much difference between my garage and the back lane is just right for that business?
I can't say I have done that kind of investigation that you ask about.
Like what?
No, I can't say that I have. So the answer is no, no, I
You
did
should
not.
check, when you go there, and how many vending car are behind my behind my garage, how
I
many?
wouldn't know that.
Yeah,
No, I wouldn't.
yeah, I know that because
Okay.
I'm living every day. I can put, from one side it's only one block, a couple blocks.
Okay, sir, that will be part of your presentation.
Mhm.
So he's answered the question, so
Mhm.
if you can go on, if you have another question for him.
Mhm. Yeah, like, you might know that every year, the city of government is changing laws of upgrading in the house. You can't compare the house, which one is built in 2010 to the 2017. Do you know that how many changes the city do that one? They put, okay, they are put HRV, smoke alarm in every room, and lots of upgrade these days, they want it. That's why their price are a little high. And you can't compare one house with the other one. These are two equal size envelope.
Okay, sir, did you have an actual question about what the assessor has said? Because we will
What
hear all your arguments when you give your presentation.
No, I just like to know, how come the price is 300? Last time when I came, okay,
Okay,
one second.
okay,
In 2013, the tax was on $225,000, $225,000. And year 13, they raised up to 267. And then they raised up to 293. And then they raised up to 299. Now they raise up to 3008. Both time when I came, they brought it back to $280,000. Both time, you might have in my, that
No.
thing.
no, I don't have that.
No, I gave you this one.
Oh, and yeah, that's in your
And
presentation.
everything is in there.
Right.
Everything is in there, They're right here on the second page.
Yeah.
And every single page you have.
Okay, so sir, that's part of your presentation.
Uh-huh.
So if you have any further questions about what the assessor has just presented on the 4 comparables? And if you, like because you've been here before,
Yeah.
so we are gonna ask questions,
Mhm.
so,
Yeah, because that's what the same thing I'm saying, this house is not worth, and if I write on say, and I can sign right now and they can have my house.
okay.
And I also write that December 1st, I will remove out everyone. It's not worth at all in that area.
Robert, did you have any questions?
Yeah, the commercial adjacent, is that the school, or is there some other commercial adjacent to the subject property?
Well, as I look at it here, I do see commercial adjacent, school. So it's possible that there are two sort of influences regarding the property.
Okay, so we know it's a school, but we
The
don't know
school-
whether
school is
there's
not a
something else.
commercial influence.
That's what I would have thought, so there must be another,
A commercial influence of some sort.
okay,
But keep in mind that when you see that, it's already taken care of in a model.
okay,
When we see that, it's not
Right.
like we put that there and decided that we're gonna wait until the last moment
I
and come to discuss adjustments here.
No, I understand that, but that way I can at least compare the properties to know how those values
Of
were
course,
derived.
of course.
So I understand that. But we don't know what the commercial is. Okay, that's the only question I had right now.
Okay. So you didn't have a chance to inspect the property?
I didn't, wasn't sure.
Do you have ML listings on your comps?
No, I don't.
Okay. I'm assuming you looked at the MLS listings?
These properties were brand new when they were sold, so very likely the attempt was made as I normally would. And since I can't account for that, more than likely the assumption is that I would not have seen anything because they were brand new properties sold from builder to the homeowners. So no, there would not likely gonna be MLS listings on them.
Okay. Do you know do you have any permits on this property? Because this is an infill.
If I pull a permit, sometimes I look at the permit, but I don't necessarily keep all of that much information. I sometimes follow little notes from other assessors went, but no, I don't have the permit. If you're looking, okay,
So,
sorry.
do you know who the builder was?
No.
Okay. So you don't have any idea about the cost
No.
to build? So
On that note, Madam Chair, there are times when I look at permits and I see what appears to be a discrepancy between one permit and another one, I would choose not to, because permits are usually pulled based on the value, because homeowners or builders know that they pay per value. Sometimes you don't see what may reflect the true value.
okay.
So I use a judgment sometimes.
So under your subject sale history, you've got a sale in 2009 of $35,800. I'm assuming that's the land sale?
The land would be 35,800 at that point.
Okay.
The building would have been in 2011. Well, actually, when you look at the building, when the land was sold for $5,000 in 2009, that was built later on. I don't know for sure whether or not that was a building on the land, although I suspect that land in building.
Okay, thank you. Sir, the floor is yours. So give us your presentation.
Yeah, okay. You seen that house I buy for $245, right? And 2011. And then how come the prices go up like that? And the school, they're talking about the school or the playground for the school. It's okay, I can tell something. Okay, this is my medicine, and I can say it's not good for me, he can take it. But school is not good at all for me, because I have no kids going there, and the whole night, almost even 2 o'clock at night, people come and swing on the swing, and the children in the school, especially like summer, they're like running around, because these days they making the class outside these days in summer, and you can't even sleep in daytime there. At night time, the other people come and they just swing and blow, something like that. That's what I say. Like that's not for me. It's bad for me. Not any good for me. That. If anybody says school is there, ground is there, this and that.
Okay. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Like the main thing, like this price is not worth. I can't take this price at all.
Okay.
Yeah, because anybody can take that. And that price, even I can go lower, they can take my house.
Okay. Did you have questions?
No.
Robert, questions?
No, I don't.
Especially last time when the guy was here, member of board, he was from Brooklyn. He was just, if you remember, he was shaking his head in Brooklyn, this much price. That's what he was doing, saying,
Okay, so you built the house, sir?
No, I did not, because the other guy built the house. But instead of 1206 square feet, the house, okay, I show you, select the part over here. The house is only 1160 square feet. This is the guy he was like a owner at that time and also real estate.
Okay. When did you, so you didn't build the home then?
Pardon?
You did not build the home?
No.
Okay, so when did you purchase the home?
The year 11.
In
July.
2011?
Yeah, it's set over here someplace. Yeah, July 11.
Sir, do you know who the builder was?
I have no idea.
No.
Must be, mostly these days, if I tell you exactly, because my brother-in-law building the house around there too, and they can't afford one builder over there because after people see what area is that you can't like sell any high price. If same kind of house you build in the new area like a Waterford Green or something, that house is almost 100,000 more than that, same house.
Okay.
So it depends upon the area. People, any person want to buy in that area, they don't want to spend 260 or 270. If they have to buy a little bit more expensive, they go in the new area.
Okay. Is this your primary residence, sir, or is this a rental?
This one?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm living in there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm living in there.
So the school is the issue?
No, school is not good for me anymore.
Right.
Yeah,
Is this the-
I'm not worrying about the school, but it's make more worse, like too much noise or something.
Okay. Thank you, and leave it with us,
Mhm.
and thank you for coming today.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay?
Well, my talks are just very simple and very easy, that's why, I'm just working in normal general labor, that's why my talks are always working. I'm only, next year I will be only 70 years old. I brought these envelope to show the size.
Okay, sorry.
No, but just 1 second, it's just normal talk.
Well,
These are the sizes of the house.
okay.
And on 1 second, you can see what is in there, in what side, they're both same size.
Okay.
Yeah, you can just check it there. That's what the qualities of the houses, how much, some houses are really nice, some houses are really bad. Yeah, check it and give those envelopes to me, those envelopes.
Oh, you want
Yeah,
them back?
check them inside. what's in-
Sorry, if you give them to us, sir,
Yeah.
then
No,
this
no.
is evidence, so
No,
we
that's
keep
not
them.
the evidence, there's something in there to show. It's not for the evidence. It's not for the, and one,
Yeah,
no,
sir.
and one is $5, one is $10, that's what in the houses are.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
you can't see the house from outside and can't put the price, The loss of, okay, take care.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. And we're gonna go to 1959 Notre Dame Avenue. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Would you like to swear in or affirm? Swear in, okay. Please state your full name,
Malkia Ola.
and do you swear the evidence you represent is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. And do you have evidence you would like to share with the council?
No, I just basically will go to the presentation once I hear from the assessor.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Ranswick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, in respect to the subject property in 1959 Notre Dame with the roll number 070-901-05000 in Brooklands, as are all the comparables. This is a one-story single-family home. It was built in 1947. It does have a surface foundation. 744 square feet is the size of the lot, as are most of the comparables that are highly similar in terms of size. I would actually say they're virtually similar. $112,000 is the assessed value, and on that note, I can Just for your records, I can tell you last year, or rather this year, 2019, as well as last year, assessment, or what we call value then in any case, $109,000 as opposed to the $112,000 this year. A marginal increase in assessed value. Now, there are 4 comparables on the property. As I mentioned earlier, they're all in Brooklands, in the same area. Each of these properties are single-family home, one-story home. Excuse me, they're all built around the same time in the early 1950s actually, and late 1940s. And they are smaller homes. Comparable number 1 has a dugout for a basement, which typically means that you more than likely have to use a trap door to get down to what may probably be for the hot water tank and the furnace, and that's all that there is to it there. Whereas the other 3 comparables, they each have surface foundation as that of the subject property. As for size, they vary just slightly, and each of these homes, being the size of these homes, as you would expect, will have only 1 bathroom. None of these, the first 2 comparables doesn't even have garage, the other 2 have single garages, chances they'll be older. And so let's look now at the time adjusted sale price for these properties, and I can say that they range from $115,000 to $119,000. So the comparable, the subject property rather, at 112, although it's not terribly much lower than that of the comparables, it's a little lower in any case, and I could not make any recommendation to have any changes on the assessed value, and that's my presentation, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have any questions?
Yes, I do have at least some questions. Now, do you know, sorry about that part of this.
Put it really close, because I don't hear.
No, it's okay.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
I can put it here. Keep talking into it.
Yeah, but I think the question I have for you, do you know this property do not have a basement?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and the other thing, do you know that the, I guess, comparison you actually showed here, these are not on the main street. Notre Dame, you know, the traffic on Notre Dame is much more than these other street you actually comparing with.
I do.
Yeah, okay. Now I guess not only that, the other thing I just want to ask you a question. Did you actually know that this assessment was based on the improvement? And I do not see any improvement whatsoever. Rather than improvement, it is the other way around, because I actually don't want to go into irrelevant questions, because even Thursday, these people from the city of the contractor came around and cut the tree right beside the other side and put right into my driveway. I had a friend actually, he's a lawyer, he was actually visiting me. He could not believe that the way these guys were actually even saying things which I don't want to actually repeat that. My friend was surprised too, but I'm saying the improvement is one thing, providing service is another thing. I think it's probably not relevant to your assessment, but I think my understanding or my experience is if city is not providing the proper service, then I think that there should not be any increase in taxes, number one. Number two, when they sent a letter telling me there is an improvement, I do not see any improvement whatsoever. They did some paving on the other side.
So that should be part of your presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I will do that.
Yeah,
But
to
they-
finish your question.
Yeah, so when you also compare, I guess on this, I think I mentioned to you about the traffic itself, because there are heavy duty trucks, they go on Notre Dame, and not only that, you have any idea, because it's on the other
Sir,
side?
Sorry. I
Yes,
think you have asked the assessor
Yes.
about the situation that your home is on Notre Dame. He
Yes.
has noted, and it's in his presentation, that they have put a note here that it's a bus route that is commercial adjacent heavy traffic.
yes.
So that question has been answered, and if you can talk about it in your presentation, but if you have another question of the assessor?
No, I guess basically the question I have, how did you actually justify this assessment comparing with other houses? So did you actually go there, or you just basically based on the other properties?
Okay, allow me to answer the question, sir. Now, when we assess these properties, we assess the building and the land together. We don't assess them separately. So all these properties here have a value that consists or comprise of the land and the building. Now, your property at $112,000, all things are taken into consideration, including the fact that on Notre Dame, there's always the possibility perhaps, and I don't know what your property is zoned for right now. I can always find out that. When I came here today, I didn't look into all of that. However, properties on Notre Dame are also subject to zoning variances or complete zoning. There are very few property in Notre Dame that does not have a commercial zoning. If that is the case, sir, then your property is on Notre Dame, the land alone would have a value that perhaps exceed the $112,000. And that I know from experience, from research, from other properties that I have assessed and looked at on Notre Dame. So having said that, so all these things are in fact taken into consideration.
But you mentioned about commercial, because I guess, do you know on Notre Dame, there are infill lots, and for infill lot, it has to be 50, frontage 50 or more, because I can understand if my lot is more than 50, then I can understand. This is actually much less than 50, because there's no way city will allow the infill lots there. You know that, eh? Did you check on that? No, I'm asking you a question.
Oh, well, okay. What you asked here is that if this property had to be a 50-foot lot, it so happens that your lot is established as a record. It's a historical fact. Your lot is in fact 3,700 square feet. That can change. If you have a neighbor lot that is equal or greater on either side, you can't eventually get your lot to be greater because you want to buy theirs or you want to sell yours. This is legally permissible to have your lot at 3,700 square feet. So it doesn't have to change, and depending on what use you have on it, whether it be right now, this would be grandfathered into having your house as a single family home. I'll tell you this further. If something happens to your property and if this is a commercial, you may not be able to rebuild a house on this. You can have it as a commercial building perhaps, but no longer as a house, unless of course it's only damaged in such a way that you can do repair work on it.
Because in the zoning itself, it says R1M. I don't think it is.
Thank you for telling us that.
You know what, sir, you can give us that information in your presentation, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
So that's fine. I just those are the questions I have, and then I guess for assessor, then I can actually
Okay, thank you.
when
Did you have any questions, Robert? No. Okay. So, Mr. Ramsbach, you did not inspect this property?
I did, Madam Chair.
Okay. And in this area, Brooklands, you've got a bus route adjacent, commercial, heavy traffic. So what is the commercial adjacent? Do you know?
I did check into all of that, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Once
So
it's
heavy-
established, pardon me?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, once you establish that there's a commercial adjacent property, I think I know that from experience too, that as I mentioned.
No, I'm asking you what it is.
I wouldn't know that, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
So what is the amount for this area that you would give for a property that's got commercial adjacent and heavy traffic being on Notre Dame?
I'm sorry, your question again is,
What is the amount of money that you would take off the assessment that you have, that, you know, the model has considered for a commercial property and heavy traffic?
I don't know that I would take off or add unless I know what I'm comparing the property with, Madam Chair. And let's say if you were asking, for example, that I would compare, let's say, the subject property to another one next door that has a different zoning. Zoning could vary somewhat, but on Notre Dame, as I mentioned earlier, Madam Chair, most of those properties there has a commercial influence or commercial properties or zone commercial.
Right, no, I'm just asking if you know the amount
I
that the
would
city.
not know that.
Okay. What was the percentage increase in this area?
Bear with me, Madam Chair. For 2020, this would be in St. James. And I'm seeing here, here's a Notre Dame. I'm seeing between 3.55% on Region 4 and Region 7, sort of bordering close by. It will be a minimum of 3.55% as an area increase for that area.
Okay,
In the West End, I'm seeing 5.8% and in the comparable areas. Yeah.
okay, and do you have the MLS listings on your comps, 1 through 4?
On this subject property,
No, on your comparables.
I don't know that, I did not look at these comparables on details based on what I see here in order to analyze it and talk it through. I'm looking at age, I'm looking at location and such.
Right, no, I'm just asking if you have the
I
ML,
don't.
you don't, okay, thank you. Sir, if you'd like to give us your presentation.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that because I was just a bit off the track, but I think basically we have to understand that some relevant information, the reason I mentioned, now I can ask you because I think it's already mentioned about the traffic, number one. Number two, my letter here says the assessment is going to go up because of the improvement. As I mentioned, there is no improvement whatsoever because I think they did some sort of paving on the other side of the street. Right in front there is a co-op, of course heavy duty traffic, and then also I think I mentioned again, it's not relevant but I want to mention to you because even during snow clearing I've been calling 311 and that I have a record of that, and I actually was in the process to damage my car. Then they asked me to go to NPI, and then NPA said no, it's city's fault. Anyway, I've been actually collecting this evidence, but that has nothing to do with the assessment. But I think in my understanding is if the taxes are going to go up, doesn't matter whose property it is. If the city can provide the services they are supposed to provide, collecting all the revenue from the property taxes, I mean, I don't think it's justified, in my opinion, because I've been paying even school taxes, not only on one property, I have another one, for all my life. I've never actually used that facility because I don't have kids. So as this other guy mentioned, of course, I'm saying that totally different. It's not the city property taxes, basically, you got to deal with that separately. So that's all I can say, because I guess when I talk about the zoning, because even if you have to change or ask the zoning people to change the zoning, it's going to cost you a fortune. Because I just finished doing few, cost you about $20,000. It takes 6 months to 1 year. Even if I'm changing, so from residential or R1 to commercial, as I think assessor said that it's a commercial, my understanding is it's still a residential. Of course, they have infill lots, there's a requirement for that. So I guess based on all these, all the information I provided you, in my opinion, I don't think the increase is justified. So I guess that's all I can say, because I looked around, and again, I guess because this area is right on the main street, and the comparison was done actually on the other side of the streets, that is quite different than this one here, and that's the whole thing, and that will conclude my actually presentation. I guess if anybody have a question, I
Yes,
guess
thank
I
you.
will do my best to answer the questions.
questions, Mr. Armstrong?
Conform, if you will, again, sir, the zoning on your property.
Pardon me?
Conform, if you will, the zoning on your property.
Hang on a second, I think I have it somewhere. It says R1M Residential.
R1M.
M, yeah, residential.
Okay, thank you. That's all the question I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Gross?
So, is this your residence, or?
Yes.
And how long have you lived there,
Well, I've been there actually for
approximately?
maybe more than 6-7 years, maybe almost 10 years.
Now, just the way you were talking about services,
Yes,
is your concern that your assessment is going up, but your services aren't? Is that?
Correct,
Is
yeah.
that the basis of,
yes.
yeah, now, do you think the value, if you were to sell the property, if you would have sold it 5 years ago, if you sell it now, do you feel that you would get more money for it now than you would have 5 years ago?
That one I can't tell because it's basically, I guess I've never actually asked someone to assess that property. I think, again, because this one doesn't have a basement, that makes a lot of difference. Only a crawl space, I think I can understand. If I have a basement, then it's totally different than you have a crawl space. Not only that, the settlement is the issue number one. Number two, the vibration because of the traffic, because it's right there, that's another issue. So anybody who want to actually look at this property, they're going to think about that part. As I mentioned, the location, number one, the traffic, number two, and again of settlement, because it's not because I do not have a basement, it's just maybe on grade, I even don't know what exactly is there, because that was built in 1947, that's a long time ago, it's just,
I have one other question, I've lost it. See, it's age.
yes.
Sorry, I've lost the other question I had.
No worries.
If I think of it, I'll let you know.
Okay. Sir, could you tell me what the commercial adjacent is to your property?
My understanding is, in that lane,
No, there's a commercial property near your house. Can you tell me what it
that's
is?
only on the other side, which is a co-op. That is
Okay.
the only place I can think of, but there's nothing else in that lane along, I think it is on the north side of the Notre Dame. All these properties are R1M, they are not commercial. Only commercial property is co-op on the other side.
Okay. Is it the co-op gas station, or is it the co-op?
Distribution center,
The distribution center?
oh,
Okay,
exactly,
thank
they have an
you.
office there too, yeah.
Okay, well, go ahead.
No, if you finish it.
Okay.
You may ask.
Oh, thank you. And sir, you stated this is your primary residence?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And how long have you been in this property?
I would say about 10 years, I guess. First I said 6, 7, I don't remember exactly, just,
Wasn't yesterday.
yeah.
Okay. And you bought this house off MLS? This was,
That's a long time ago, in 90, just don't quote me for that, but I think it was in 90s. I was not even here when I bought it. I was actually working with another government. So anyway, I bought that property, that's a long time ago. At that time, it was not that expensive either,
right. And have you made any upgrades to your home?
No,
New kitchen, new bathrooms?
no.
Okay. And so what is your request for your,
My request is, I think even when I look at this property, of course, I've been extremely busy. I didn't even look at this a lot of the time. Actually, I should have looked at that because of even 109, I think it is, the previous one, right? Even in my opinion, that is also actually excessive. Then I think it should be, right now I think it's 112, right? That's what it is, no?
Yes.
Yeah, so anyway, so I actually request, that in my opinion, it should be even less than the previous assessment, I think gave you example. Because see, the unfortunate thing is when they say improvement, I mean, I can, actually I don't want to go off the track, but my nephew has the same problem, a real nephew. He has this assessment. When I talk to the city people, they didn't even know what improvement. There was no improvement whatsoever. They're charging improvement tax. So what are the example I gave you, because I was dealt with that.
Yes, do you, sir, do you have a number though?
11, number 11 balcony.
Oh, no, do you have a
How
number
much
for
you
your
would-
house? How much you would like?
Oh,
That's
so
what I'm
sorry about
asking.
that. It's my apology, okay? So I would say maybe, in my opinion, maybe 100, 400, 5.
Okay. Mr.
That
Granson?
was gonna be my question.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Okay.
don't be sorry.
Okay, leave it with us, sir.
Thank you, appreciate your time.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Thank you.
Oh, no, that's fine. Okay, thank you. 293 Guilford Street. Item 10.
Would you like to swear in or affirm? Okay, please state your full name.
Yeah, actually, very fine.
And do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. And do you have evidence you'd like me to pass out to the panel?
Yes, could I hang on to, or,
Do you only have one copy?
yes.
Okay.
My other copy's electronic and that's turned off, so I guess I could pass it now, I took notes, so. actually. It's one copy there, perfect.
Yes.
Mr. Brownswell, whenever you are ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, now, in respect to the subject property on 293 Guilford with the roll number 07050276000. Subject property is a 1.5 story that was built in 1950. It's got a full basement without any development in the basement. $270,000 is assessed value. $233,000. Pardon me. Actually, it was sold a long time ago, so it's a dated sale. I shouldn't really make any reference to that. $270,000 is assessed value on the subject property. Now, the 4 compounds that I have here, they are all in the same neighborhood characteristic area in Deer Lodge. Each of these comparables are 1.5 story, and they're all single-family home, and they were all built between 1950 and 1951. So age-wise, location-wise, type of property, they are all highly similar. As for the size of the home, they're also, from an appraisal point, an assessment point, they're also highly similar. So there should be very little adjustment during the reconciliation process. The subject property does not have a finished basement, and the other properties do. The average sizes are about half or a little less than half of the size of the basement of those properties. Keep in mind that because there's 2.5, the size that you see there for the comparables between 1,200 and 1,300 plus square feet, it just means that the basement area is going to be smaller, and therefore even the development is going to be smaller than that. All right. As for the lot size, they are also highly similar. They are a few square feet larger or then some of them are larger than others, but not by much, and so therefore, when these properties or houses are already built in them, there shouldn't really be any kind of adjustment on those either. The only thing I would consider for adjustment is condition on these properties. I suppose the appellant might have a say on that condition of our property. Okay. Now the time adjusted sale price, so we're looking at the value of these properties. They range from the lowest one in comparable number 3, which is $260,000, and the highest one is $279,000, which is comparable number 4, and the other two comparables are $270,000 for number 1 and $276,000 for number 2. So what we're seeing here is the subject properties sort of fall very close to those of the comparables that I have here. And again, maybe the argument, as I suspect, is going to be coming from the condition of the property. And that, I think, is going to be on the floor. I can say that I did happen to look at the appraisal report from that was submitted some time ago. I had a look at it, and it might be only an issue of condition of the property. And that's, Madam Chair, is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have questions of the assessor?
No, thank you. I guess I wanted to clarify, so you're looking at the time adjusted sale price, right? That's
Yeah,
what
we
you're
always
looking
look at the time adjusted sale price, and that would correspond to April 1st, 2018 for this purpose of 2020 assessment for all the comparables as well as your property.
at. Okay, thank you.
So we're the same level field.
Thank you. Questions?
No, everything seems to be.
So, Mr. Ramswack, you did not inspect the property?
I didn't inspect the property. The only thing I did, Madam Chair, was to look at the previous listing when the property was bought in 2010.
Okay, did you bring the listing?
No, I haven't.
Did you make any notes on what you read in the listing?
Well, the listing, it was average then, and I suspect, as I said, from a report that I read afterwards, and I rely somewhat on that, on the report for reasons that I did not inspect the property myself. I rely on it because the appraiser was suggesting that the property is perhaps a little less condition-wise, or maybe have deteriorated slightly from when the property was bought in 2010.
Okay. Can you tell me what this, the area, Deer Lodge, what the percentage increase was from the previous assessment?
St. James would be 2.5%, Madam Chair.
2.5?
2.5.
Thank you. And do you have MLS listings from comps, for comps 1 to 4?
I had a look at these MLS properties, and I happened to, let me see.
Did you bring them?
284. I have 1 and 284 here. Bear with me, I'm going to see how many I have and what I have. I don't keep them all. Sometimes when I look at these properties, some of these properties are also private sale. In this case, I probably only took 1 so far. Do I have any more? What I can say to you, Madam Chair, is that when I look at the multiple listing, take for example, comparable number 1 and comparable number 3, they're superior in condition.
Okay, sorry, but that's what I'm asking. Do you actually have the listings, the MLS listings?
Not on this. I have your MLS listing on the subject property where it was sold. Did you want to see that?
Yes, please.
I only have 1 copy.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay, thank you. That's all my questions. If you'd like to give us your presentation.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to
Just
start.
one point, Madam Chair, if I had
Yes.
known that I was going to be giving you that, I'd be wiping out the name of the owner or the seller and that kind of thing. So,
Yep.
yeah, so you
That's
might want
fine.
to do that.
Yep, thank
Okay.
you.
I guess starting looking at the comparables, comparable number 3 and 4 to draw your attention to. So maybe starting with 373 Guildford Street, very comparable to 293, except like you had mentioned, it has a finished basement and the garage, and the time adjusted sale price was $260,000.
Mhm.
Which 293 does not have a finished basement or the garage. And comparable number 4, finished basement, garage, assessed at, or the time adjusted sale price was $279,000. And looking at the comparable number 1, which has a finished basement but no garage, the time adjusted sale price was $270,000. So 293 does not have the garage or it's an unfinished basement. So I just feel that because of the unfinished basement and no garage, the assessed value would be a little bit lower. Also, the interior condition of the home has not improved. It really has actually deteriorated since the sale in 2010. There's some photos in the evidence that I passed on. I guess number 1, there is a big heave in the basement, and it's really impossible to finish the basement without digging it out or raising it up. There's significant water damage on the second level and the main floor on the exterior wall that requires pretty much gutting the wall and redoing it all. And there's various things like cracked tiles and a crack in the exterior foundation as well that's new since 2010. So because of the interior condition and some of the specifications, I feel that the assessed value should be lower.
Yeah, thank you. Questions?
No question, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I guess the condition of the property, you mentioned the water damage, the heat
Yeah.
floor, and all those, and a couple of other things. Have you had it priced in terms of what the remedial costs would be? Have you had someone come in and give you quotes on?
I have no quotes to present on paper, but I've had, over the years, I've had a couple quotes, and it's varied quite a bit, but
Yeah.
I guess with the water damage too, it's addressing, before redoing everything on the interior, it's figuring out the source of the water damage
Right.
and where it's
Yeah.
coming in
Yeah.
from, so,
So in order to kind of bring it to a,
yeah.
let's say, a normal level of, you don't have the actual,
The dollar value, what
Yeah.
it would take to fix, no, I don't,
what would be your guess,
yeah.
total?
Total, I would say probably about 50,000.
Do you recall what the previous assessment was, last year's assessment on the property was?
I believe it was around, last year it was, I didn't bring it with me, I believe it was around 256,000, but I am not.
256?
Yeah, but I'm not, that I don't have that with me.
In your package here that you brought in, do you have photos of the damage?
Or like what you would consider to be kind of the condition of the walls, or?
Yes, there is in the package there. I do have some clear color photos electronic that I could send, if that's, yeah,
That
sorry.
actually illustrate.
Because they
Can
are,
send it.
yeah, okay.
These are the comparables. I don't have any other questions.
So this is your first time appearing before the board?
Yes.
And you got this appraisal, is the house going up for sale?
No, I purchased it with my ex-husband in 2010, and I had moved out, we went through separation. And I had the appraisal done, I did buy him out of the house. So it's solely in my name now, and I am residing there again.
Okay. And the water damage, I'm sorry, you may have stated this, it's being caused by,
Not sure, but I feel it's coming from the roof.
and it has not currently been fixed?
No.
Okay. Sorry, I just briefly glanced, so it's causing damage along one of your outside walls?
Yeah, there is a photo of the exterior of the house in there, and it's affecting the second level and the main floor on the exterior wall. So that would be the upstairs landing and the kitchen,
Okay.
exterior walls.
And you mentioned you've got a crack in your foundation?
Yes, on the exterior.
And what is the number you're looking for? You're currently at 270, you were previously, well, you're not sure, but maybe 256?
Around 240, 250.
Just one last question. Have you received any estimates on what it would cost to redo your roof or fix your foundation?
Not official estimates.
No, just
no.
the, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Leave it with us. Thank you for coming.
Sure, it's expensive.
We have to keep it.
Okay.
Yeah, you can,
Yeah.
Okay.
I made a note.
And we are on to item 14, 594 Bannerman.
Would you like to swear in or affirm? Please state your full name,
Mikola Ninkovic.
and do you affirm the evidence you represent is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And do you have evidence you would like me to pass out to the panel? Thank you.
Case number 4.
One short.
I guess
Whenever
you're
you're
ready.
ready. No, if you want to take a minute, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that one, sure. Okay, I am just about ready for 594 Bannerman with a rule number 140-605-31100. Property, again, 594 Bannerman. A little of the subject property is a one-story single-family home. It was built in 2017. It is in fact an infill home. It's 1,440 square feet, no finished basement, and a lot size of 5,188 square feet. $347,000 is what I have here for the assessed value. Now there are 4 comparables, and because it's typically in infill homes, they're going to be hard to find. They are in different areas. You occasionally find a few here and a few there. As you can see from my comparables, nothing close by, so some of these properties are actually way out, including the fact that they are in already what I consider developed area. So let's now concentrate on looking at the properties before we start determining and making any kind of comparables or adjustment or reconcile for the location. The comparables here that I have are each one-story single-family home. Granted, they are in different areas. Two of them are actually closer to the properties, 1, 2, 3. They are Riverbend, Amber Trail, Mandalay West, I think is also not terribly far, but that's where it is. And Rosser and Old Caledonian is probably a little farther away. The one on Rosser, which is 19 Driftwater, number 1 comparable, and number 3 comparable, they're probably closer to each other. So let's look then at the characteristics of the property. One-story single-family home, and we have the age of the home, as you can see there, comparable number 1, 2015 year built. 1,513 square feet with a finished basement and a $440,000 for the time adjusted sale price. Comparable number 2 is smaller, built in 2006. It doesn't have a basement finish, and neither are the other 3 comparables. 1,240 square feet is somewhat smaller with a lot size that are highly similar in terms of size, and $269,000 is the time adjusted sale price on that particular comparable. Comparable number 3 then is also smaller and almost the same size as that of the comparable number 2. It was built in 2008. Slightly smaller lot, but highly similar in terms of the size anyways. $360,000 is the time adjustment on comparable number 3. And then there is comparable number 4, which is an Amber Trail, built in 2014, and 1,342 square feet size, that is slightly smaller. 4,880 square feet is the size of the lot, which is very close to that of the subject property, and it's $376,000 for the time adjusted sale price. So we are looking here at 3 properties, comparable number 2, 3, and 4, that are actually a little bit higher, but certainly closer in terms of value than that of the subject property. So if we are in fact to take away comparable number 4, because there will be more adjustments for comparable number 4, although the size is close and the time it was built is also close, we more or less have to start doing some kind of reconciliation and determine if the properties that are comparable number 2, 3, and 4 are actually higher than that of the subject property. I think that perhaps we can start thinking about a location adjustment, when we start thinking then that the subject property is 347. The lowest comparable for prices is, in terms of values, comparable number 3, which is $360,000. But each of these comparables are smaller than that of the subject property, and in particular comparable number 2 and 3, as you can see, they are 200 square feet, comparable number 1 smaller than that of the subject, and say 170 square feet more or less, and that in comparable number 3, that is smaller than that of the subject property. So when I use that kind of logic to make that difference for that comparable, make that adjustment with size, and still lower than that of the subject property, I could not make any recommendation to lower volume share. And so therefore, that's what I see at $347,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have any questions of the assessor?
So all these properties, the comparison 1, 2, 3, and 4 are outside the 4A area, correct?
If there are different areas, speak into the.
All 4 comparisons are outside the area A4.
Immediate area, that is
Four.
correct, you're right,
Yeah.
all of them.
So when, let's say anybody purchasing a home, they search for a house in their price range and in the zone that they would prefer to reside, correct?
Can you pull out and repeat your question, please, because I don't hear you.
When people are purchasing a property, they have a price set in mind, right? Top budget, low budget, right? And mostly dictates their purchase of a property is the area, right?
Well, people they would buy a property based on their budget, based on location, all kinds of reasons or why people purchase a
Would
property.
you agree that the 2 primary reasons or the contributing factors are the zone and the cost?
The 2 primary reasons were the cost and what else was the question?
Zoning,
Zoning? did you
not the
say?
zoning as a residential or not, I mean the area in which the house is located.
Well,
Right, if
Yeah,
it's close to your house, right, to your place of business, to your job, right, to your kids' schools, right, that's how you choose a property, right? Most
that's
people
very
do.
subjective, sir. People buy properties for all kinds of reasons, right?
Okay.
All sorts of reasons.
So these properties being in completely different areas would obviously have a different price on the property due to the neighborhood, due to the surrounding properties, right? Not just the style of the home.
There would be a locational difference from time to time, and that's what we try to establish.
Okay, so, all right, that's fine, that's all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Questions?
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that these are all over the place. Now, the subject property is definitely in an established neighborhood and an infill property. The comparables that are offered here, would these be considered infill homes, or these are just the age of the neighborhoods? Like the Driftwater Trail, Sedona Crescent, all those are in newer neighborhoods, are they not? Or are they in the neighborhood, like more recent neighborhoods? They're not,
A quick look at the comparables is going to show that these are properties that are in suburban areas that are designed for the purpose of to have the quality and size and age of these homes. So they were built in developed areas at the same time when they were built.
Yeah.
Based on the age and so yes.
yeah, so that's the area of the neighborhood actually, probably.
Well, yeah, this is what it is. They were
Yeah.
built, all the surrounding properties of the subject of the comparables are going to have similar age and mind you, not necessarily style, but certainly similar age and values and so on. I recognize that, and I pointed out that there is going to be a little difference. And the reconciliation here is that I'm looking at the subject, the comparables, more especially all of them, the 2, 3, and 4 is where it will be easier to start making adjustment there rather than the first comparable is that much higher. But I can basically take any of these comparables and make adjustment, except that comparable number 1 would require greater amount of adjustment. The less adjustment you have in the property, the more simple it is to determine value.
Okay, I've got it, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Ramswack, the subject property is an infill, correct?
It is, yes.
Okay. So are comparisons 1 to 4 infills? Comparison 1 to 4s, are they infill properties?
No. No, they're not.
Do you have MLS listings on them with you?
Do I have MLS listings on these comparables? No, I don't.
So you feel the comparables 1 through 4, even though they are not infill, even though they are, and I'm going to suggest, miles from the subject property, are worthy comparables?
Well, if there were other comparables, and I looked extensively, I should say, for properties, and whereby if I did see them, the infills, you have to look age and type and style. So when I start looking for
Right.
comparables throughout the entire region, like region 4 for example, what region would that be? The entire region, these are the only things that come up. In other words, Madam Chair, there are not other comparables in infill area that you would see, and if there is nothing, I couldn't bring it.
So comparable one, for instance, is 100,000 more
Mhm.
than the subject property.
That's correct.
And so you are still going to you still feel that any weight should be put on comparable number one?
Well, I'm not suggesting that we would put weight on it, because I don't think I said that. I said that even if we to take out comparable number one and don't put any weight on it, period. If we were to do that and look at the other three properties that don't have a basement finish, for example, we don't have to worry about what the basement finish would be for comparable number one. That's for sure. So we have to start taking out that and then use other adjustments. And sure enough, once we determine, and I really wish I had the size of the basement so we can determine, or make a judgment of the value for that when we do more extensive studies, and then we can adjust anything here that can be adjusted. If we were to make a greater amount of adjustment for comparable number one, then it would be a little less reliable, because the comparables that have less adjustment would be better. Now indeed, comparable number one of the good things about it, it has a size that is easier to compare, the size of the home at 15, 13. Each of these comparables can be adjusted, every single one of them.
Are you familiar with, on comp 3, are you familiar with Riverbend? The neighborhood?
Madam Chair, I sold real estate for 20 years, and yes, I know all of these areas. I didn't
So-
sell for the last 20 years, mind you, but I still am familiar with.
Okay, I'm sorry, we're
areas.
not discussing your credentials here. Would you not say there is a very big difference between Inkster Faraday and Riverbend?
If there is what?
Would you not agree that there is a big difference in regards to the neighborhood between Inkster Faraday and your comp 3, Riverbend?
Well, Inkster, yeah, there is a difference in location. There is for residential.
No, I understand there's a difference in location. I am talking about the actual neighborhoods.
And your
If
question,
you are familiar with, so would you not agree that there is a very large difference between those neighborhoods? You're saying that you are familiar with Riverbend.
Madam Chair, very large is a subjective and relative term. There is a difference in value in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Also, when we have properties that are infill, very often we have seen where an infill home based on appellant's comments earlier that people can buy a home in an area based on location and other stuff. Indeed, he himself, I think, had bought this home, or somebody did. Somebody did it in 2008 for $90,000 for the property. That alone is suggesting that the land there, Madam Chair, would be somewhere like perhaps $100,000 or something like that.
$82,000.
I beg your pardon?
$82,000 for the land. And I did buy the property that was on there, demolished it, and built his new building
And
on it.
that's what I thought.
So
You
it
said-
bettered the neighborhood.
I don't
Okay.
doubt that, sir. We see $90,000.
Okay, thank you, that's all my questions.
Okay.
If you'd like to give us your presentation, sir, thank you.
Absolutely. So, number one thing is the comparison to not even close to the properties, right? The three properties that I provided are in the neighborhood. They're new built homes. They were sold a little bit later, and I would allow, let's say, $30,000, even more, because my property is a little bit larger, and 1 year difference in the building, let's put that way. I would price my property in that neighborhood at $295,000 maximum, because it is a new structure, it is a larger property, it is still a single family dwelling, as I only live there with my spouse and 2 kids. The 5 rooms that's described is not entirely accurate, as I do not have separations between the kitchen the dining room and the living room. Essentially, it's a one open space, and I do not even have a dining room table. We eat at the island on the kitchen. So I would, number one, shrink down the, excuse me, number of rooms to, I would say, 3 for the upstairs, because there's 2 bedrooms and 1 open area, which would once again dictate for the price. You know, the evidence speaks for itself, like the closest, I'm not even sure what is, what the exact meaning of an infield lot is versus, would you be able to enlighten me? What's the difference? I heard the infield.
The assessor
Could
can
you put
explain.
it closer so I can hear, Chris?
What is the definition of an infield lot?
Infill typically means like you bought this home that is already in an established area that is probably 50 years old or older, where the house is taken down, and now you build a brand new property among all the other houses there that are already 50 years or perhaps older than that.
Okay,
50
perfect.
to 100 years perhaps.
Thank you,
That's
yeah.
what we call that
So
infill because you're not.
the
building-
surrounding area is mostly rental properties. There's very few people that actually own the houses and do live in them. So you can imagine the turnaround and the actual, you know, characters that do move into those properties, and area speaks for itself. The home is around it, I believe the right next door property was built in 1907. So nobody in their right mind would purchase a home for 347, living next door to the, I'm just waiting for them to hopefully do the same as I did and demolish that property, right? So the surrounding area dictates the price. People spending $347,000 on the property would not be looking to move into North End. Me placing a price that the property is worth of $295,000 is derived from what I paid for the original house and what it cost me to hire a contractor to get it to the primer stage and finishing the property myself. And the exterior of the house is still not finished. That would be the luckiest day if I got that money. If I were to put it on the market, I would be hoping to get that money. That would be it.
Thank you, sir. Questions?
Okay. How much did this cost you to build this home, sir?
$157,000.
Is that what, that was the permit?
Pardon?
That was the permit?
That was
Or was that
the,
the permit that you took out? Was that your permit, sir, to build this house?
The permit.
is that, I'm not sure if that figure was on the permit. That is the amount I paid to the contractor to get the house to the primer stage, which is they primer the
Well,
walls.
whatever you.
I'm not sure, yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by the
Whether
permit.
it be the cost, I mean, that's it, I'm just trying to establish
Yep,
that, you know. So the house you say is not finished, and what part of it is not finished?
exterior, the tiling around the bathrooms is not finished. The painting in some areas, I just finished the staircase, you know, I put the laminate onto the stairs. So the house is in constant process of me actually working to have the upstairs finished.
So you had a contractor that built your home, sir?
Correct.
Okay. And who was the builder?
Henry Lowen,
Okay.
and I believe the actual price was $149,000 that he charged me.
Okay. And do you recall what your assessment was, or is rather, for 2019?
347, I believe that's the fact we're here to.
Okay, that is correct, that's fine, we don't have to go on further. Yeah, 247,000.
347.
247, I beg your pardon.
347.
Okay, all right. And is there a reason why you did not appeal your assessment for 2019?
There is, because from PIPP, the pricing were jumping and I was just across the street, trying to figure out why. I had like 4 different papers telling me all sorts of figures, and the bottom figure I was paying, I believe, with, 1 second. Because I did not receive several papers, my monthly payments were $476 for my property tax, which supplementary monthly TIPP was $141, and regular monthly payment was $335. So I was paying almost $500, and first, let's do this. In October 4th, I got a paper that supplementary monthly payments were $289 and the regular monthly payments were $126, totaling $415. On November 26th, I went down across the street and addressed the issue to where a revised paper was issued to where regular monthly payment was $126 and the supplementary monthly TIPP was $141 for $267. At which point I kind of stopped paying attention as the monies were directly withdrawn from my account. And once I noticed that the actual amount was drawn was $476 monthly, at $335 for the regular monthly payment and a supplementary of $141. I kind of lost my mind a little bit and filed an appeal. And that's why we're here, because now I actually know what the suggested value of the property.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
No, I think there was lots there.
Okay, sir, you talked about the exterior of your home not being finished,
Correct.
but I didn't hear exactly.
The
what was
vinyl
not.
finish, there is, the vinyl is all around, and both front and back of the house has supposedly by plans, what do you call it? Like a stone, 4 or 5 feet up from the ground, like a stone finish, which I'm looking at, that was priced out for $10,000 just to get the material, never mind the labor, which I'm not able to afford at the moment. So that portion of it is not finished.
So the exterior of your house right now is,
Vinyl and some Tyvek
oh, so you've got Tyvek around your house, okay, that's,
paper, yep.
okay. Landscaping?
Slowly added, I put sod, I had to, number one, it's a corner lot, so I'm responsible for mowing the grass, doing more work than any of my neighbors, and had to seed it several times. There is actually just on the opposite side of my back lane, a city-owned property, which was constantly neglected, and I had to call 311 and constantly remind them to come and mow the grass, which usually reaches around knee-high at the point I make the phone call, and dandelions and everything else. So I believe I'm like the model citizen in that neighborhood, looking after the property.
Sorry, so your house is sodded, your property is sodded?
Front of the house, yeah, and a little bit in the back, correct.
And no further landscaping, you put up trees or bushes?
No, I took down trees actually.
Okay. How much did it cost you, to demolish the previous house?
I believe $8,000.
Did you do that yourself?
I hired KO Construction, I believe. I
Okay.
believe that was done.
And so you don't know what your previous assessment was for 2018? Sorry, when was the house finished?
2018, I believe. Like 27, like that's the whole another reason, because apparently it's considered a finished home as soon as you get power to it and water, and not when the final inspection is done. So that's the whole discrepancy of the monies that were added to it, because the house wasn't technically finished. It was, I needed power to continue work on it, so the power was in there, and I believe the water was, but the exact date, I couldn't even tell you.
When did you move in?
That's, I would say, 18. I would say probably around June of 18.
Okay. I'm sorry, so you don't know what your 2018 assessment was? You don't have any,
I have the actual printouts, what does it say for 2018? So May 9, 2019. Okay, 2018, we have, you want school tax or you want the final number?
No, the
Net
final
property
number.
taxes, 1525.
That's
oh, sorry,
taxes.
not the taxes,
The
just
assessment.
your assessment.
Assessment of the property?
Yeah,
Uh,
not your tax bill.
I'm not sure which document you're referring to now.
It should probably be on your tax
Yeah.
statement too, isn't
It
it?
should be there somewhere.
Just have a look.
Assessed value,
Yeah.
159,000.
And what's the date on that?
May 11th, 2018.
Okay, last question, what is your request on this property, sir?
I think the fair market value is $295,000 for that property.
Sorry, I do have one more question. What is the finishings inside?
Drywall,
No, I'm sorry, for instance, your kitchen and your bathrooms? Do you
IKEA
have
furniture.
No, do you have, like in your kitchen, is it stock cabinetry, is it IKEA cabinetry?
IKEA.
Do you have marble or quartz or granite for countertops? Is it laminate,
I think it's composite or some kind of,
like a composite stone?
yeah, quartz maybe, I don't know.
Okay, and your flooring is
Laminate.
laminate? Okay. Okay, thank you for coming.
Thank you for
Madam
your time.
Chair,
Oh, yes?
and just as a summary, right, because you know we're entitled to have it, I didn't think
Absolutely.
for any, right?
Absolutely.
I just want to emphasize, I pointed out earlier that these properties are in different locations that are superior. I also pointed out, actually emphasized, that there is absolutely no infill home of this size and nature in the entire region. And I found that the question was rather a rebuke to me rather than trying to get information. And I sort of want to point out, emphasize again, they're in different area and they're in superior area. If I had it, when I looked at the listing and so on before at 347, I thought this is the best place to at least give that information out and leave it up to the panel to make that decision. Thank you.
So may I have something to say now too? I believe the three examples I provided are the infields homes. They are in a zone 4 and they're priced way lower, even though they are a little bit smaller. Like I said, 30 grand is more than enough to cover the difference between them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now, I know I'm next, but I have to go feed my meter.
That
because
is
I didn't-
fine, we will
No,
take
I
a
didn't want
break.
to, I didn't want to leave and, you think that I'd gone home.
Okay.
That is fine.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
sorry,
you.
I'll be
Have a good
right,
day.
I'll be right back.
That is
My
fine.
meter is going to expire at 14:44, and I can talk fast, but maybe not that fast.
No, that's fine, take your time.
You don't want,
You don't want a ticket.
I don't, you're
Ticket.
absolutely right.
Yes.
So I do appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Bring your right back,
Yes.
okay.
Thank you, and I would like to bring this hearing back to order. You didn't have a ticket, did you?
No.
No, good.
No, I would have had a ticket about right now.
Okay, good.
Would you like to swear in or affirm? Please state your full name,
Eleanor Susan Finley?
and do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. And do you have evidence you would like me to pass
No.
on to the panel? No? All right.
Whenever you're ready, Mr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, now for the subject property on number 78, Somerville Lane, with roll number 045003851900. Properties in River Grove. So a little bit more about the subject property. It's a one-story single-family home. It was built in 1996 and it is 1,992 square feet backing onto the Red River, so they have that river influence. It does have a finished basement, and that finished basement is actually 1,340 square feet for the subject property on record. That's the record we have. The other characteristics of the property you can see below. The site of the lot is almost 1,500 square feet, which is about a fraction over, just about, I would say more or less, a 1/3 of an acre. Actually, a fraction more maybe. All right, $610,000 is the assessed value of the property. 4 comparables here that will be selected for the subject property, and in this particular case, Madam Chair, I would like to think that the subject property is a fair value, but I will probably emphasize that at the very end. Comparable number 1, 199 Macbeth Grove, single family built in 2011. As I go on with my presentation, I will take note here that the subject property is in fact older than all the comparables, so therefore adjustment would be made through with those comparables by way of some form of reconciliation. It does have 1,733 square feet, which is slightly smaller, so you would need an adjustment for that. The basement finish, the size of it is 1,225 square feet for your record, and the rest of the characteristics you can see. It is on the river, and it's slightly smaller lot on the river. In this case, it's about 1/4 of an acre. And that's comparable number 1, and $656,500. Comparable number 2 then, on 98 River Ridge Drive. It's a 1-story home. Again, it is newer. I emphasize that, so adjustment will be made for that through reconciliation through reconciliation. It is virtually the same size with a finished basement, and that finished basement on that property for your record would be 1,200 square feet. That's what we have. 8,985 square feet is the size of the lot, and $665,000 is the time adjusted sale price. Comparable number 3 then, on number 6 River Ridge, built in 2010, 1,760 square feet, which is almost 300 square feet smaller than that of the subject property, with a finished basement. And I don't have the numbers for that, I didn't look it up. A smaller lot size on the river, $627,000. Comparable number 4 on number 35 Fox Run Place. And because it's Fox Run Place, I would like to think, or just by the name of the street, I would suspect it might be a cul-de-sac. Built in 2011, 1,745 square feet would be, say, about $250, pardon me, 250 square feet thereabouts, smaller than that of the subject property. With a basement finish, I don't have the number for that or the size. And a smaller lot size that is not on the river, $605,000. Now all these comparables are actually, with the exception of the last one, the same size. Now the difference, for example, whilst I'm in comparable number 4, I can simply say, what am I seeing for differences? I'm seeing where the value, the age of the home would be superior, and therefore there would be, when you compare the other properties, then there will be an adjustment for that. There will be an adjustment for the size. I would say that the rec room would probably be about equal value, and there'd also be an adjustment for the lot because it's not on the river. So with that said, when we were doing this comparable, when I was looking for the information and records and comparables, we only found 3 comparables, and I needed one more. So when I saw this one, I know that the comparable number 4 does in fact have a superior, probably has an inferior value in the lot. So I'm not going to put a lot of weight on that right now anyways. So let's look at the other three properties. And because we're looking at the other three properties in the same area, backing on the same river with various number of sizes for the lot. So the difference, the other big difference here in these comparables is the age. So now we're going to make a difference with the age, and we're seeing then that each of these comparables are in fact higher. Comparable number one is something like 46,000 square feet. Pardon me, $46,000 higher than that of the subject property. And the question is that when you think about $46,000 difference, is that where the difference in age is going to be? And then we still have to add some difference in the size of the home. Does that then come back to justifying a value of $610,000 for the subject property? And I would say yes. Comparable number two, smaller lot size, same size of home, it's newer, so therefore an adjustment will be made for that. And when we consider a smaller lot size, and we look now at $55,000 difference, or $55,000 higher in this comparable than that of the subject property, when only the major difference here is the age of the home, which is about 14 years, and the lot size is slightly smaller. Is that then going to be a $55,000 difference? Again, I say yes. Comparable number three then, the last one, built in 2010, superior in age, smaller in size, smaller in lot size, and in this case we only have a $17,000 difference in the value. And but when you look at a smaller lot size, a smaller home, and a difference of the age there, do I think then that $17,000 there difference and the $610,000 for the subject property is fair? I'd say yes. And I wouldn't even talk about comparable number four anymore, because if I do it will be location adjustment. And that is about the same as comparable number, as a subject property. So I say, Madam Chair, that one of the things I'd like to add, this property was actually analyzed by another agent and by another assessor, and we have the same, we come to the same conclusion that $610,000 is a fair value. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Did you have any questions of the assessor?
No.
Thank you. Robert?
No.
Did you have a chance to inspect the property?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Do you have the MLS listings on the...
On these properties, I don't know if I do, probably not. But
Okay.
when I look at how I describe the properties to you, the comparables, I rely on what I have here, Madam Chair.
Do you
And since I now know that it looks like it's an emphasis now, that rather in the past when we weren't asked, certainly I wasn't asked that often about multiple listing, and although we talked about it not too long ago in the office that the panel is now asking for it, perhaps in future I'll start looking at it. Don't count me in getting them all the time because of the amount of time that we may not have. Right? But for these ones, I don't have it. I just rely on what I see on paper here.
Okay. You don't...
Well,
So then I'm just going to ask you, do you have the MLS listing on the sale in 2011? On the
do I
subject
have
property?
that? I will look, Madam Chair, to see if the other assessor has put it down here, and if I do, I will make it available to you. $78 in 2011. As a matter of fact, I do want to choose.
Oh, okay.
This is her copy, not mine. And it looks like she also included pictures. Hold on. Thank you.
Thank you. If you would like to give us your...
You keep that for your record, Madam
Sure,
Chair.
thank you. If you'd like to give us your presentation, ma'am.
Sure. Thank you for putting up my going out to the parking lot.
No problem.
Okay, I live right next to this, which you may have seen in the newspaper. This is the North End Trailer Park, the expansion that has been happening over the last couple of years and has now turned into this 10-foot wall. Where the old Northgate Copa used to be. And so my house is right there. And this is what I look at when I look out my bedroom window now. Now, this wall was just built this year, and I understand that our property values for this assessment board are as of April 1st, 2018, so it wasn't finished yet. They were just tearing down the trees and dumping dirt. But they have put in hundreds and hundreds of truckloads of dirt. They have decimated the riverbank. They have, and I do mean decimated. They used to have copses of trees, we had deer, and now I have a 10-foot wall with trailers on top with gravel. So, this has gone to City Hall. I was part of the group that went to City Hall when the reassessment of the property went to City Hall, and I know that's not your issue, back in June of this year, because it just floored me that the City Hall was approving the reassessment for the zoning of the property, the former Northgate Copa property, for 17 additional trailers after all of this was done. It just floored me. And I admit that when the city, in the midst of all of this food-for-all happening next door to me, sent me an assessment notice that my assessment had gone up $23,000, while this was happening, I saw red, and lots of it. I really want to point out that I have done nothing to my home. I haven't even gotten out the paintbrush, but that's an embarrassment to say, but since I've owned it in 2011, I have put in an alarm system and a setback thermostat. That's it, that's all. So, you know, I do not have a swimming pool in the back. I didn't put up any, you know, fireplaces. Nothing has been done. And it just absolutely floors me that when this was in progress, that the city had the nerve to say that my assessment had gone up like that. And I know, again, that we're talking 2018, April 1st, but the house at 90 Summerview, which is very close to my house at 78 Summerview, the numbers go by 4 there, went on sale last summer, which is pretty close to April 1st, 2018. It went up with a realtor, and I believe the initial asking price was $569. The house doesn't back onto the river, which is true. It backs onto this mess, and it had been extensively renovated by the current owner. Bathrooms, kitchen, exterior, extensively done, beautifully done. So they started at $569. It's been on the market until about 2 weeks ago. It finally sold, and it sold for $486. And that was after going through 2 realtors, and they ended up selling through Purple Bricks. In the midst of all this, I just cannot believe that the city thinks my house has gone up in value $23,000. In the midst of all this too, I've lost a whole bunch of trees, not just from the storm. Yeah, I lost the boulevard tree in the storm last week, but that's a separate issue. There were birch trees all along the back of the property that had been planted by the previous owner. They've all been dead, so I had to take them out. I've lost a pear, I've lost 2 Schubert chokecherries, I've lost a bunch of evergreen trees. So I'm just floored where the $23,000 came from when this has been happening at the same time.
Thank you. Questions?
I do, if you want to give me one moment, Madam Chair.
And you know, when I spoke to the city clerk too, I admit that I, you know, hadn't realized the process. You can have this one.
Yes, thank you.
I hadn't realized the process that, you know, in fact, I'm a little early with my appeal. Apparently, I should be appealing again, for the completion of the wall, the next time that the city assesses. But I was already in process by then, and so I'm here on principle, just because I was so taken aback, as were my neighbors. The good news in all this is that my neighborhood now is far more cohesive than it was before, because we went door to door, we got petitions, it was just inconceivable that the city allowed that to happen, and then there wasn't even a construction fence around it. There were kids jumping off that 10-foot wall. It's just, you can tell that it was it hasn't been a fun time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. In your presentation, Mrs. Finley, you mentioned that...
I'm not Mrs. Anything.
You're not.
No,
What am I missing here?
I'm not Mrs. Anything.
Yes.
Miss.
Thank you.
Miss, I beg your pardon, ma'am. Okay, Miss Finley, you mentioned that your property value went up, did you say 23%?
$23,000. The
Oh,
previous, the assessed value, the assessed,
Blame it on me.
I have a foghorn voice, so the
Blame it
assessed,
on me, I thought I heard that, and I do apologize, you know.
okay. The assessed values over the years, previously was 587,000, and with the one that just came, it's 610,000. Prior to that, it was 564. Prior to that, it was 550. Prior to that, when I bought it, it was at 448. And so in hindsight, I should have been coming to see why on earth my property went up $112,000 when I had done Zippo to it back in 2000 and whatever it was. But, you know, I'm kind of like one of those earlier people that said, you know, you pay the bills as you come in and you're not paying particular attention. But this year, with the wall going up, it had my attention.
Okay, all right, you were describing a property in comparison with yours for $4,000, I think $400-something thousand. Can you tell us the details, about that property, so for comparable purposes and for the panel? How do you...
Which property?
You mentioned a property.
Number 90 Summerview, which is 3 doors down from me.
Okay, has that property been sold, and when?
Yes, it just got sold in October
Of this year?
of this year. It was up for sale since last summer.
Okay, and now direct this to Madam Chair for a moment here. Perhaps you make a ruling, Madam Chair, and
It's
suggest
post-reference.
so that I don't
Yeah.
know that it makes any sense for me to question it about this whole property anymore. I'm not going to ask you anymore about this property, and she knows why. All right. Okay, I don't know if I have much more to ask. I don't know, this might even be a rhetorical question. Would you prefer that your property did not go up at all?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that the value, if I tried to sell that house today, I don't think it's worth a nickel more than it was 2 years ago because of all this mess happening.
Okay.
And I think that, you know, it was unfair to be increasing the assessment at the same time as that was happening.
Okay. Well, what's crossing my mind right now, I'm not seeing exactly what that is, and I may not, may or may not influence me, but do you have any other comparables of your own that you've actually brought with you today?
There are houses in my neighborhood don't turn over very often. A lot of the owners, including the neighbors on both sides of me, are original owners. That's how often the properties turn over in my neighborhood.
Okay, I'll give this back to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
No more questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions, Richard?
I'm looking at that, is that like about a 10-foot wall?
That's 10 feet.
10 feet. Okay. You'd mentioned, and I was making a note here about trees that were lost. Were those on your property?
Those are my trees.
And they were lost why?
Birches, birches are fussy about water.
Okay,
And
so-
you know how sometimes we
yeah,
have water and
yeah,
sometimes we don't have
yeah.
water. So it wasn't something the city did. Although the city has a pumping station right between me and that wall. So that there's always, the city is comes and goes, and they drive on that property. There's a little walkway there, and so they drive back and forth. They've kind of wrecked the sidewalk part there too, because when they come back and forth to do Dutch elm remediation or whatever.
So is this your home that shows
No, that's
up?
my neighbor's home.
Okay, that's your neighbor's.
Yeah, so from my, when I look out my bedroom window, or my bedroom windows, it's all towards that area.
Yeah,
So you are over here
Yep, that's
then in
correct.
relation to that?
okay.
Okay.
And as I say, the city owns the area in between, because when that property, that whole development was built, my understanding is that the dirt that they dug out of Portage Place to make the parkade became the primary dike, and so it's not the best dirt. And there's and I'm not gonna use the right word, there's a floodgate thing, so that makes sure that the water doesn't come from the river and back up into
Yep.
the area. And I'm sorry, I don't know the technical term.
Um,
And every spring I get to have a great big city pump parked right next door to me in case we need it. Sometimes they come, at midnight they'll come and pump out the water. So sometimes I have to phone to 311 and remind them that some of these things really are daytime operations.
When did this construction start, approximately?
Oh, it's at least 2 years
This is
ago,
two-
maybe.
This picture's 2019, but
Yes,
yeah,
but,
it's going-
but
yeah,
no,
yeah.
they've been dumping dirt there for more than 2 years, more than 2 years. And as I say, they demolished the buildings because for those of you who are of a certain age, we might remember that Northgate Copa it was previously a farmhouse, a farmstead, and then at some point in time, somebody turned it into a wedding venue, dance hall kind of place for banquets and so on. And that was like that when I bought the property, and then since then, it was set empty for a while, and then somebody ripped down, the owner ripped it down, and then started with all this dirt and so on. So it's been over a couple of years, more than a couple of years. So hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and I don't exaggerate, of truckloads of dirt have been dumped into that property. Because where that wall, that 10-foot wall was, as I say, a little gully with a little kind of stream had gone through there at some point in time. There was a bunch of trees, and now we have a 10-foot wall, and the riverbank is just decimated.
So if this construction, or this development, let's call it that, was not underway or hadn't taken place or wasn't there, let's say it was the old Copa, would the 610,000 assessment be more correct? Is that?
It would have been more correct, but with this,
So it's the impact of this
that is
really,
my major concern.
that you believe devalues or reduces the value of the
Absolutely
property? Okay. All right, I'm good.
So the river is on this side of the wall?
Yeah, and if you look at the assessment map, I believe I have a copy of it here somewhere.
Yep.
Do you have the assessment map in front of you? Okay.
I do.
So mine is the pie-shaped one, and
Right,
then
you're up there.
then there's a walking path.
Yep.
And then the wall is all along that north side of
So
the
the
property.
wall is here or here?
Yeah, there, that's where the wall is, yeah.
Okay.
At least I'm got my glasses on. Hope that you're just pointing to the right place.
That's the next.
Okay. So when I look out any of my bedroom windows, and there it is.
Sorry, I'm just asking, the purpose of the wall is to
Well,
protect
no.
the trailer park?
No, he put all that field behind, and now he's put, this is an expansion of the trailer park. There always was a trailer park existing out on Main Street, and then part of it, the property behind it, was zoned for trailers. And over the years, they've usually had seasonal sites, so somebody would bring their motor home from BC and park it there for the summer or whatever. And then this whole reconstruction of the Copa and the additional dirt and additional trailer sites was proposed. And I spoke to Debbie Sharma, who was my counselor at that time personally, about it, and she said, it's a trailer park, if he wants to put in trailers, he can do that. But what I and many of my neighbors hadn't realized at the time is that the Copa property wasn't changed from an R1 residential to a multifamily or trailer or whatever the, I'm sorry, I don't know the designations.
Right.
Until after that date. If that was up for the Northgate property, was changed. And I know that's not your issue, but it sure is mine.
Yes. Sorry, so I'm just, so the wall though was built?
It's got all this dirt behind it, and then
No.
it's got trailers on top
No, I
of
know,
it.
but what is the purpose of the wall? That's what
To
I'm
hold,
missing.
to hold the dirt in place so the trailers don't slide over.
Stabilizes that,
It's a-
they fill, it's
Yeah.
backfilled with dirt,
Absolutely.
and that's,
Because of
and
the
that's
creek.
the.
So they've cut off the creek. The creek that
And,
was there,
well,
they
and,
filled it in?
well, and they, you know, the poor deer, are too bad, so sad, and, you know, like that. And even the riverbank, when we, took this to City Hall, and apparently, and I've never been to City Hall before that, but, when the, presentation was made, they said that they hardly ever have to use the second public gallery, but they did that day. Because people just could not believe this was happening. And the last person to make a presentation that day lived on Henderson Highway, and none of us that live in the neighborhood even knew she was coming. She came on behalf of the Residents Association across the river because they were so concerned about what had happened to the riverbank and the amount of noise that would be now transmitted because the trees and so on are gone. And we talked to, I've had Kathy Cox, who's my current MLA, come and look at this. You are just one of the many people that have heard my whine about this, but I think it's a legitimate whine.
So you are looking to have your previous assessment number?
I
the
would
587.
very much appreciate that, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
for coming.
Thank you for accommodating me so I didn't get a ticket.
No, that's fine.
Thanks for waiting.
Yes.
Well, I've never been before, so I didn't know when I signed up that I was going to be here all afternoon. But that's okay. I appreciate your listening. So I get a letter in the mail? That was the registered letter that
In
arrives,
about
right?
2 weeks, yep.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Now we get to go through,
This will be done easily. You're not gonna do the recs, but you have 15 ones, I don't think, right? You don't need to do those.
do we have recs on these?
He's talking about those ones.
Oh, the
Yeah,
withdrawals.
so we don't have to
Okay.
go through those ones.
So we're going to go to item 6,
Middlegate,
Middlegate.
okay, now, do you happen to have a brief on Middlegate, any chance?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a brief on it?
Yes.
My brief?
Yeah.
Okay, then all
So
you
you
need
just-
then is the email to ratify the reduction.
Oh, okay.
I only got that
Okay,
yesterday.
then-
Sometimes, not that I want to wait till the last minute, but there are times when you have to do that.
Can you just read out the address and the parcel ID, and then you can read out the rec for us?
Oh, you want me to read it out for you?
Yes,
Not
it
to-
just has to
You want it
be-
back to read it?
No, I happen to have the.
Your own copy?
I got that, so that's for your copy there. All right, now, 159 Middlegate with a roll number 12091697000, one-story home in Armstrong Point for a $596,000 is the assessed value. A recommendation was offered to the homeowner for $500,000. they accepted it, and it's via telephone and ratified via the email, I think dated yesterday.
And what was your reasoning for the reduction?
The reason was based on comparables.
Can we keep this copy, Mr.
Yes, you
Lansweet?
can.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. And item number 11.
Number 11. Should we go to 52 first or not? It's up to you, because it just happened to be in my list here.
Yeah, 52
On
Deer
your, when he had showed up, but he didn't.
Oh,
put
I
in.
forgot. Yes, yes, Deer Lodge, you're right.
Okay.
That
Which is
is
this?
item 9.
Okay, right.
Sorry, item 9.
That's the one that they were
Yes, Mr.
reduced to 700.
Again, if you can just read off the address, the amount, and
Okay. All right. And
the roll number.
All right, okay. For now, 52 Deer Lodge Place with roll number 07051301000. Two-story home in Bruce Park in St. James area. $756,000 assessed value. The recommendation was made for $700,000. Actually, it was for 710 and adjusted further, edited further for 700. And in his presence here earlier today, he accepted that. And I asked you, Madam Chair, would you want me to initial that in the absence of no hard copy for like an email or any kind of thing? Or you're satisfied
No,
with
I think we're okay. What was the basis of the recommendation?
based on comparables again?
Okay.
Mhm. Done?
Yes, and now on to item 11.
Number 11, which is number 180
Just have
Woodbridge,
to-
I believe it is. Okay, here we are. Now, because there's a no-show, what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna do the same here as top of the address, 180 Woodbridge Road with a roll number 0707007 quadruple 0. So, it's one-story home in Boardroom, St. James. $178,000 assessed value. I ask that you confirm that, Madam Chair.
Thank you, and be it noted that there is no appellant present.
22 carriage. 22 carriage bay with a roll number 0743699 quadruple 0 in Heritage Park in the Crestview area. Bi-level home. $287,000 is the assessed value. I ask that you confirm that again, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And again, there is no appellant present for this property.
I'm sorry, your question was?
No, I just said there is no appellant
No.
here for the property. And to item 13.
Number 13 would be 31, 23 carriage. Do you happen to have a
It's, sorry, Ness Avenue?
yeah, you have a recommendation, do you? No?
Is there a recommendation?
Is there a-
Yep.
For 218?
Oh, here it is.
Yeah. Can
Okay,
you pass
then
this
I have a ratification here by email.
Sorry, Mr. Ramsbach, can you just
Yeah, we
state
don't-
for the camera the recommendation number?
3123 Ness Avenue, rule number 07436200000. I didn't know how to the 5 zeros. I could say 50, but there must be a word for that. Fifth, no, I don't know. I'm not so smart. Okay, now this property has been reduced to 380, and obviously you see via email that she has accepted it. And this is one of those properties, if you notice how much it was sold for, at $225 in 2011. And based on the condition of the property, more especially the condition of the property, as opposed to the other ones. When I did the comparables, I saw it needed deferred maintenance, not to mention all the things that need to get done to put it back to good condition or average condition. So now we have had that only a fair condition of this property that has caused us to reduce the property even for less than she paid for it 11 years ago.
Okay,
Thank you. I think in this stage, the department has asked for some credibility here when we can do such thing as reduce the property below what they paid for it many years ago. So there are times that we're not able to answer some of those questions or have the comparables, but there is sufficient information via pictures that I've seen on this one, and I was able to make that recommendation, and that was accepted both by management and the appellant.
great, thank you,
So everybody is happy.
thank you. And this hearing is concluded.